Before we go to our last question, before we go to our last question, I wanted to address something that Samson said earlier, is that all of our communities are dealing with historical trauma. We are all recovering with historical trauma. And when we take that commitment to be involved with the American Indian movement and become in service of our community, even ourselves in our chapters are struggling with historical trauma. So if you can, get a chance to Google what historical trauma is, and you'd be amazed how it works within our communities, within our chapters, within ourselves, and how we're recovering from that. I just wanted to add that.
Hello. Anyway, my name is Adrian Larvey. I'm the founder of the Portland AIM chapter. I started like 3 years ago. And I've been through a lot with this chapter. It's like constantly you have to have I feel like I have to have a box of Band-Aids in my pocket for all the things I have to keep going around and fix, And it's a hard road, to be, I wouldn't say I boss anybody around or anything like that, but, it's like, and one of the things we came up with lately is like when somebody disrespects somebody else, we bring them into and let the elder take over them, and talk to them about these things and this kind of thing. But one of the things we try to do is keep it within just that, just when you get to that point, just leave it at that, and have that ending ceremony to what went on there, and don't spread it out. Keep it going, and pretty soon you got all this animosity going over one thing, And one of the other things I wanted to talk about was that profanity is really bad. It's one word is like throwing a big rock in the middle of a pool of water, and we experienced that the other day, and it's just really hard, It just spreads really fast, And one of the things I've been working with myself, and I tell everybody around me, is that profanity has to be really kept under control because it hurts a lot of people, and really fast too. And so somebody told me always walk in a sacred manner even when nobody's around, because that way when you are around people, it'll still be with you, and you won't make these mistakes like that, because you react to somebody, somebody doing something or say something, you react really fast, and that profanity will slip out, and it'll have a bad effect. And so, I wanted to put, because what she, so thank you.
One more.
Thank you very much.
Yvonne,
I want to thank
Yvonne.
the panelists.
Yvonne, one more.
We have-
I just want to make a
Okay.
I just want to make a closing remark here and honoring the women. Respect for these ladies that are setting up here. When the American movement formed in July of 1968, after nearly 6 months of organizing a community of over 25,000 Indian people, there was only about 120 people showed up. Our people have been beaten down that far, and of that 120 people showed up, I think 80 of them were women and children. Women and children. They're the ones that started this movement. And when we went into Wounded Knee in 1973, we had hearings out there in that little building out there in Okalala. And after taking over 1,500 individual complaints, we told people don't come up here and talk about anything if you don't have proof and do affidavits on it. And after 1,500 complaints, it was a woman, an elderly woman that stood up. I was chairing that meeting that night, that afternoon. She said, "All right, Mr. Belcourt, haven't you heard enough? What are you going to do now? Go back to Minneapolis, Los Angeles, San Francisco?" She started naming off all the relocation places. Feel sorry for us? Maybe they'll find you at the end of a belt in some jail cell. Or are you going to stand here with the women and children? I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "My name is Gladys Bissonnette." And she held up her arm, pulled her sleeve down. You could see the veins running down her arm, and this is what she said. "The same blood that flows in these arms today, and the same blood that flows in your arms is the blood of Crazy Horse, Geronimo, she's holding today." She started naming off all the chiefs. And that's the same blood that flows in your arms. And you have a responsibility to stand here with the women and children. And all the testimony and discussion stopped right there. And we went across the street with Frank Fusco and leaders of the movement and some of the headsmen. And I heard another litany from Chief Frank Fusco going all the way back when he was a little boy of all the bad things that happened to the great Lakota nation. How they just shot his cattle just the night before and burned down his farm. And he said, whatever you AIM boys want to do, he said, I'll be there with you. We didn't know there was going to be an armed confrontation. We didn't know they were going to fly over us in a big gunboat and drop leaflets on us, telling us the women and children should leave. The church people in there, they should leave. They're going to come in and get us at 5 o'clock. So we had a group meeting as we held every day. We never made, American Movement leadership never made any decision. There was a consensus. And the women spoke out there. Not one of them would leave Wounded Knee. And the same elderly lady, Gladys Bissonnette, came out and jerked a rifle out of the arms of one of the Vietnam veterans and said, you guys want to leave, go ahead. Us women, we're going to stand right here and look the enemy right in the eye. We're not going to get down on our knees anymore. That's the strength of our women. And I know I would not be standing here today had it not been for our women. I've been married now for 50 years. 50 years, it's hard getting that far. But I'm going to tell you a little secret about marriage, kinship. You know, as a man, make sure you get the last word in all the time. If you want to survive, get the last word in all the time. Yes, sir, all the time. You know what that last word is? Yes, okay. Dear. Okay, dear. I'm sorry, dear. You're right, dear.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you, Corrine and Ann and Madonna and Morningstar. Lim Lim for the time.
Hooray, now I can do it! Okay, now.
Oh,
What's the big first?
good one. Let's give him a big one again, you guys. All right. And we stand behind the women every inch of the way. You know, 1984, I know that sounds old to some of the young people here, but 1984, I was in Nicaragua with the revolutionary people, and I was with the Sandinistas. And I remember Daniel Ortega, Comandante, Presidente Daniel Ortega, and Tomas Borges, and Clyde knows these people very well also. And they told the revolutionary soldiers, the revolutionary Nicaragua, 1983, 84, upon liberation, 81, that to the men, it is your revolutionary duty to pay up. And so thereafter, I was more consistent in my payment. And so, you know, I'm divorced, and I went that route, and, you know, man, I was behind, especially being with AIM. There's no money in it. And Treaty Council was only giving me $20 a week, and I was far behind. But you know what? A couple years ago, I paid off $40,000. 40 big ones. So I asked for counsel of an AIM woman, and she said, well, it sounds like you're in good standing. But you know what? There's a lot of variables, right? My brother just got out of prison, and he had kids, and, you know, when you're in prison, the clock is ticking. And, you know, we have a burden. So a lot of our men, guys in Quinton that are coming out, they got to pay up. You know, each chapter's got to think about it, but we got some scruples right there in that paper. We're going to make copies of that. And you'll have a copy. Puerto Rico will have a copy. Guatemala will have a copy. And, you know, the men will start standing strong because they're going to pay up because they know we're in revolution here. And we got to pay up and teach our kids as well. and that's mine included. Okay, enough said. We're going to kick one out.
Okay.
All right, here we go. And then we got Leonard Peltier Strategy Committee, so stick around. We're good till 5 o'clock, okay?
Good to find.
So we're going to have a strategy for Leonard Peltier, so stick around. Do some shopping.
Do some shopping. Okay. Okay. Now what? Okay. Um.
Tell everybody what's happening. It's good.
Okay.
I gotta take this over. Oh, wait, oh, here, I can use that.
A dancer dropped it. I'll give it back to him.
I gotta turn it on. Hey, you wanna walk over to the drummers? Can you walk over to the drummers with that? Here, with this, here. Yeah, take it over to, and so I can, and I'll turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, 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 hey, yeah. Yeah, 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 hey, hey, yeah, hey, yeah.
And this is live here in San Francisco with the American Indian Movement 2010 gathering. Whoops, where are you going? It's already in. Go ahead. You missed your chance.
Okay. Aww. I have to go now.
Okay. Well, thanks for helping out.
Maybe I could do another time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Okay, my name is Samson Wolf. I've been working volunteering, meaning I don't get paid for what I do. I've been working for Leonard Peltier Defense Committee, which is now the Leonard Peltier Defense Offense Committee, because Leonard said he got tired of being all defensive all the time, so now he wants to be on the offensive, be a little proactive. And we have a representative here. I have the Leonard Peltier Support Group in Northern California, and we have a man that came out that joined up with the Defense Committee, who's here, Peter Clark, and he's going to talk a little bit more about how you can get involved and what we can do to help Leonard. Leonard needs our help now more than ever with his medical problems and just the length of time that he's been in prison. You know, we all know that he's innocent, and we need to get him free, and we'll talk more about that. But I don't know if during these last 10 years I have got to meet a lot of really good people, and that's what really makes it worthwhile for me to continue to go out and the powwows and table and do work for Leonard. And I don't know if any of you have ever read that book that Leonard wrote, Prison Writings, My Life is My Sundance. But that's a book that Leonard read. I'd highly recommend you read it. And after I read that book in August 26, 2001, I started reading it. It was after midnight, and I couldn't put it down until I was done reading it, and I read the whole thing. And then it really made me think of, you know, I was playing guitar, I was messing around, and I wrote this song, which is really, if you read My Life is My Sundance, that's really what this song is inspired from that. And I'm a little nervous, so I'm just going to pretend like I'm in my living room at home right now, because I always feel so comfortable there when I'm at home. So you guys are all in my living room right now, and I'm going to play a little bit here.
A child born is the hope for the people to let freedom ring.
from their little hearts. Freedom from their hearts. Freedom, let it ring. The sound is so nice. Freedom, let it ring through the child's life. Freedom to live on your own land. Freedom to live as an Indian. The warrior's cry sent to the American people. What is the fate of my people? America, wake up, America. We want to know, what fate do you have for our people? For our people. Free Leonard Peltier. Free Leonard Peltier. Freedom for Leonard. America, remember when we helped you. America, remember when we helped you. Yeah, America, remember when you gave thanks and said thank you. You said thank you. America, America. Freedom for Leonard Peltier. Free Leonard Peltier. Free Leonard Peltier. America, will you honor our treaties? America, will you honor our treaties? America, will you let our children live a good life? America, America, freedom, let it ring. The sound is so nice. Freedom, let it ring through the child's life. Freedom to live on your own land. Freedom to live as an Indian. I was born in Aboriginal sin, guilty of being Indian, guilty of being Indian. That was for Leonard. So, you know, there's a lot we can do to help Leonard. There's a lot of people around this country that want to help. And the best way, I think, would be to contact to whoisleonardpeltier.info and hook up on the website and forward that to all your friends. And you know, we're all the people that show up. We're the people that do things, you know. We always have to, you know, we have an event, we invite 1,000 people, maybe we get 50 show up. So there's a lot of people that will come and do work. Like, we need all of you people to help Leonard. And we need, you know, I don't look at myself as I don't try to be a good Indian person. I just try and be a good person. You know, I'm tired of hearing all of this division in this country, having everybody trying to put fear into everyone. You know, we need to start looking at our common things that we have, and we have a lot in common, more so than our differences. And if we can find those commonalities, because just the Indian people across this country is not going to get Leonard free. We need everybody's help. All colors of this land, we need to help Leonard. And I was surprised how many brothers from the overseas in Russia know more about the American Indian movement than most people here in this country. So without taking any more time, I'd like to introduce Peter Clark. He represents Leonard Peltier's Defense Offense Committee, and Peter is in charge of all of the support groups in this country. So please, Peter, thanks for being here. He came out from Albuquerque on his own dime, you know. He's another volunteer, you know, so thank you.
Before I get started, I want to thank everybody for having me here. I want to thank Leonard and his family for the humbling responsibility that he's given. My wife and I are the chapter coordinators, and it's a privilege to do this work for him and for everyone. I'd like to start by reading this. One morning you wake up and you find you've been given something you didn't want. 2 life sentences plus 7 years. These gray-green steel gratings, these cold cement walls, these endless coils of razor wire, these sliding doors that take you from nowhere to nowhere, these shadowed and inhuman corridors are now your world. This place is yours, they tell you, until the year 2041. Not one lifetime sentence, but 2. Consecutive. That's plus 7 years, of course. That's for once in 1978, having escaped under threat of assassination from Lompoc. I tell myself, be thankful you didn't get 3 life sentences this time, Leonard. After all, you could have not killed 3 people instead of not killing 2. They really have thrown the book at you then. Yes, Leonard, consider 2 lifetimes plus 7 years very, very lenient for the high crime of being innocent. There's no telling how long I'll actually be here. Once I counted in days, then in weeks, then months, then years. Now I count in decades. And when he wrote this book, he was at 2 decades. Now we're at 3.5 decades coming up. Must I do 2 more, 3 more? It seems the arithmetic gets easier as the time gets harder. And before I get into the chapters and everything, I wanted to kind of comment on some of the things that were said today about and yesterday about the UN indigenous rights, and also the UN listening sessions and presentation that on November 5th the U.S. made their own presentation on their own human rights records at the UN. And I attended a couple of those UPR listening sessions, and not one bit of it. The ones I attended were in Albuquerque and in up by Window Rock, and so they were specifically with indigenous rights, and not one bit of the information, the outrage, the environmental degradation, uranium, none of that was in the U.S.'s report. The only thing in the U.S.'s report that was of anything negative was they mentioned the immigration law in Arizona. And, that's Democrats versus Republican is why that got in. And so all those things that were mentioned here today were things that many of you know better than I do. They were the reasons for the persecution, the prosecution, and the incarceration for Leonard. And so those are reasons we continue to fight for Leonard, and proud to do so. And so to get on to what we have going on, we have as Sampson mentioned, they had a nomenclature change to the defense committee to the offense committee, and that reflects the times. It reflects Leonard's weariness. He is gone from the stage of a warrior, although I'm sure he still has the heart of a warrior, but he's an elder now, and we need to get him out of prison, to get him the health care he needs. And on November 5th, the U.S. made a point of saying that they treat their prisoners humanely. Well, on November 15th, the LPDOC put out a press release, and I'd like to read not all of it, but most of it. And this covers some really pertinent things that are going on with Leonard's health. So it starts here. For immediate release, Peltier family accuses U.S. government of medical neglect. A man dies from prostate cancer every 16 minutes in this country. Why does my brother have to wait over a year to receive even a diagnosis? Native American activist Leonard Peltier, who maintains his innocence, was wrongly convicted in connection with the shooting deaths of 2 agents in 1977. In prison for 35 years, currently at the federal prison in Lewisburg, Peltier has been designated a political prisoner by Amnesty International, Nelson Mandela, world leaders everywhere. I'm going to kind of skip through some of this because not real pertinent, but the main point is that Leonard has symptoms of prostate cancer. He was given they did some some blood tests back in June, from which they were not notified the results until 2 weeks ago. And from the results, it was recommended that he get a biopsy. Now, that could have taken place the next day. He has not had a biopsy. Early detection for prostate cancer leads to 90% survival rate. But if you don't have that early detection, it can get very serious very quickly. So this is the reason for a major push we need to happen. And Leonard, his committee, his legal team have decided for now we need to focus on that phone number. We need you to have your cup of coffee in the morning. We need you to get home from work in the afternoon. We need you to call. We don't need you to say clemency. We don't need you to say parole. We need you to say set Leonard Peltier free. There are many mechanisms that President Obama can use. Clemency is kind of a broad term for pardon, commutation of sentence. He could do any of those things with the stroke of a pen before he gets his suit on in the morning. And so that's our main drive, to have people, and I have our gal who has a chapter in Vancouver has a bunch of envelopes and some flyers. They're already addressed to the White House. She'll hand them out to you guys. You put a stamp on there. There's a blank piece of paper in there. Just write your quick note. Leonard deserves to be free. Free Leonard Peltier. You don't need to get it. You can write obviously whatever you want, but you don't need to get into the legal issues. You need to say, set Leonard free. He's already served way beyond the sentencing guidelines that were in place when he was illegally incarcerated. And so that is what he wants focused on. He wants us to target the White House. And in that vein, on December 16th, and this is short notice, but this is only amount of time that Obama has given us, there'll be the second Tribal Nations Summit. It'll be at the Department of Interior in Washington, D.C., and we are trying to get as many people there to show their presence. Last year I was there, and we were able to stand right across the street from the Department of Interior. Obama came and went about 3 to 4 times during the day. He always came from a different route, but he always wound up going in the same side of the building. So we always knew where he was going, and he knew we were there. In fact, one time he had his window down and he looked right at us. And we can't let him think we've gone away by not being there this year. And this year is as important and more important than ever. So, it's a long way from San Francisco to Washington. But many of you have relatives there or folks you can network with. Please, you can put them in touch with the committee at, you could send them to me, lpsupport@whoisleonardpeltier.info. And we're arranging as much as we can for ride sharing and housing and everything. And again, that's December 16th. One of the other things that Leonard really wants people to get knowledgeable about, so that when we're out talking about him and for future campaign, really, because we kind of plan ahead on what we're targeting. Now we're targeting the White House. In the future, we're going to try and have letter writing to members of Congress. And I have a list of every member of Congress here. Of course, it's going to be outdated after the first of the year, but I'll leave it on the table back there, and you can look up your Congress people, your legislators, and also write letters to them at your leisure explaining Leonard's situation, and then you want a remedy for Leonard. You want him... Leonard really would be happy with a transfer. You know, at this point, a transfer would probably seem like a vacation. Some of the places he would like to go are Oxford, Wisconsin. I think it's Sand Hill, Minnesota. But ultimately, the best for him would be to have house arrest back on his reservation back in Turtle Mountain. And these are things that the government could do tomorrow. There's no real paperwork, no real hearings that need to be had. It's really a stroke of a pen that can do this. So as far as the violations of the United States Constitution, which enable the prosecution, conviction, and continued incarceration of Leonard Peltier, it's kind of too long of a list to go through here, but I would implore anybody who wants to be an active supporter to avail yourself of those points, because those are going to be important in the future. If we don't get through to Mr. Obama, we're going to have to keep after the congressman. Of course, the legal team is always doing things that we chapters are not always fully aware of and don't need to be aware of. As chapters, we are the activists. We need to be pushing nonstop 100% of the time. And sometimes that doesn't jive with what legal is doing because they have to be diplomatic. But at this point, Leonard wants us to not worry about that. He wants us to push hard and keep pushing. And so in that vein, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have these drives, you know, every Friday. We try to have a massive call-in to the White House. And now about calling the White House. I've been told that Obama gets a top 10 list on his desk in the morning. And that top 10 list is the amount of calls to the comment line on a particular subject. So if we can get on that top 10 list every day, he's going to know that we're not going away. And maybe he'll be reminded of the fact that when he campaigned, he promised relief for Leonard Peltier. And now I don't know what relief he thinks he has given him to this point, because he hasn't given him any, and it's 2 years into his term. And as president, he is one of the few, I lost count, who has not granted any pardons, any clemencies in his first 2 years in office. It's a kind of a well-known myth that presidents wait till the last week to grant clemency and pardons. And it is true to a certain extent, especially when they're giving it to their buddies and they don't want to get the bad press, like Mark Rich with the Clinton, back in the Clinton days. And so clemency, commutation of sentence, pardon can happen at any time, and it's going to happen from constant pressure from us. And so we implore everybody to really stay on that. And just to cover a little bit about chapters, how to become a chapter, it's real easy. Just email me, call me, 505-908-0481. Everything is on the pamphlet that's being handed out. Whoisleonardpeltier.info. The website has been kept fairly well updated. After the parole hearings and the letdown, the denial of parole, there was a real slump in activity from the support groups, and that's kind of how I got into the position I was in, because I am in, and my wife, we started asking questions and complaining, where is the leadership from LPDOC, from the chapter coordinators? You know, what we need to know what direction to take, and I guess if you complain long enough, they give you a job. But so communication is where we're at now. We've had a real upsurge in the last couple of months of adding chapters. A large part of that is due to a fellow named Michael Wolfhard, who has been reaching out all across the country and in Europe and Canada, and has signed on a lot of new chapters in the last just 2 months. And at this time, I should announce that Michael Wolfhard has been announced the regional organizer. So his territory is the Southwest, which will include California, Utah, Nevada, New Mexico, and Colorado. We have named, I think, 3 other territories. We have Arthur Miller up in the Northwest. We have in the South Pacific, Lakota and Cassandra Rabideau. They cover the southern Pacific Islands over there and Hawaii and everything, so they're the regional organizers for there. And in the Northeast, we have John Gallagher, who is the regional organizer there. And a regional organizer is a part of the new structure. Back in last spring, we decided to go from the terminology of support group to chapter. This kind of falls more in line with more organizations. It's kind of easier for people to figure out what we're talking about when we say chapter. And it also is more inclusive. It lets people know they're working directly for the committee, and therefore they're working directly for Leonard, because Leonard runs the committee. I mean, it's phone calls, he has emails, he gets in touch with me, he gets in touch with the office on a daily basis, lets us know direction. Some of the things that chapters can do, and Sampson is a great example of getting these things done. Just organizing events in your area, community outreach, unity with other grassroots organizations, civil rights, civil liberty organizations. In Albuquerque, we have something we are just starting. It's going to be the first Saturday of every month, and it doesn't matter what your organization is. Excuse me. It doesn't matter what your organization is. It's that we're all going for equality. We have LULAC, we have Brown Berets, we have Green Party, we have Food Not Bombs. And what we're going to do is every Saturday, and I would really like to see this spread. I think it's a great idea throughout the country. It's first Saturday of every month. You get on the main thoroughfare, street, highly visible in your town. Each group takes a corner along that block. You know, you have your LULAC, Brown Beret, you have 5 minutes, and you just do what you can, and that'll show our unity, and that'll build a base. And we just look at what the Tea Party did in a year, and that's just through networking. Of course, they had a little bit of money behind them, which we all don't, but a lot of it was networking. It was people getting out, people who don't always have the same goals but work together, and that's what another thing that Leonard is really interested in seeing happen. And so I guess I kind of got to cut it short here. I could probably ramble on for a long time. I'm pretty good at that. But I would really encourage you to fill out those. I gave you a blank piece of paper and an envelope addressed to the White House. The White House responds most to what takes you the most time to do. Letter writing, phone calls are the best. Writing an email is okay, but there's somebody on the other end who can just delete that email. Phone calls are logged automatically on a computer. Letters have to be filed, and a little harder to destroy. So we really encourage you to do it that way. Emails are great too. We don't want to discourage that, but for now, let's just keep calling that number every day. I know it's probably an 85-cent call, but it's well worth it, and it's what Leonard has asked us to do. So with that, I really thank you all for having us here. I appreciate it.
And that number 202.
Do you have any questions? Yeah.
456.
Do we have time for a question or two? Is there a question or two? Oh.
Go ahead, take one or two.
I don't think there are. Go ahead. I'm sorry? Oh,
I can answer.
he can answer. I hear he's doing while he's back at home. He just couldn't make the trip. Although he wanted to, everybody told him not to. So, and I'm a poor substitute for Lenny. There is specific guidelines on what he can receive, and they are on whoisleonardpeltier.info. I don't think I'm not going to say he can't receive packages, but I don't know that he can. But again, whoisleonardpeltier.info has all that. And if you don't get an answer, just give me an email, lpsupport@whoisleonardpeltier.info. Yeah, see, I'm not even sure about that. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And you have to be very careful about how you address it. It has to be addressed correctly, or it's just going to get kicked back. So, with that, I thank you again very much. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you, Peter Clark. And we're on chapters, and we encourage chapter development, including American Indian Movement, and certainly it's a natural to have a prisoner rights component within the chapter organization. So we're locked in like that as well, developing that network. And let's see, the question that Nathan asked about Lynn Foster, he was an invited guest, and he came down with a stroke, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and kind of really put him back. What's that? I can't hear you. Oh, October 4th, excuse me. The date, gosh, I can't even remember yesterday. So October 4th, took a stroke, and he's laid up in bed. He's recovering well, and he greets everyone. In fact, he's tuned in on his computer. So everybody give a shout out. Let's hear it. Hey! All right. Yeah, he's listening up, and he greets everyone. And he thinks a press conference on Thursday at Pier 31 after we come back from Alcatraz. So Clyde will be there, and Frank Perro from Minneapolis, and all of us, the Leonard Peltier committee people. President Obama has not signed the declaration, so all these things, we got to put heat at that press conference, 10 o'clock at the pier on Thursday, okay? So let's work on that. We've also included Morning Star, so she can be with us on behalf of Treaty Council, and also to report on the walk from San Jose to Vallejo. It's treacherous, especially in this weather with the rain, and they're walking through that storm. We really got to give them credit for that. Okay, early today, I told you I had 20 turkeys in the carrucha, in the car, right? All right, I'm going to give you a turkey report. I'm telling you, it's hard to travel with eagles when you're hanging with turkeys. I got to get rid of them. All right, so here's the good news. We've gotten rid of 8 turkeys. 8 turkeys have been committed and taken away to get cooked, and that means I have 12 left. So if there's any local people here that want to volunteer to cook, all right, Jesse, got 2 over there. Do I hear anymore? No, 3. All right, that's how they're going to go. But we got 12 turkeys we want to get rid of, okay? So see me or see Laura in the red shirt right here, the young lady. And don't get her confused with her identical twin sister over here in the white sweater. All right. Want to wish you well. Tomorrow we got a big day, feast. We have a cultural program. We have keynote speaker again, Clyde Belcourt, and we'd like to hear from Madonna Thunderhawk again, give a talk. So hopefully she'll be here. In the meantime, we got the Portland AIM drummers over here who've been blessing us with their songs and how they walk, and they provide security while here. Different components that we got to develop here in our San Francisco chapter. We don't have a drum yet. Although I met a guy in San Quentin last month or 2 months ago, he said he can make a drum, so we're waiting. But we want to give him some money, so we want a little donation if you have that. On the other hand, the Portland AIM drummers, they can appreciate a little donation here. On the blanket, they're going to sing a song to close off the day. And I'd like to invite Tony Gali, if he would come up and bless us with a closing prayer. First of all, and then you guys can take it away over there on the drum, all right? So dig deep in your pockets, give the boys some cash. Tony Gali.
Piha, We Mushihi, Hetla, Hetla Tiska, Aju Mawi, Maktu, Makpa, Amitu Achan, Hetla, Hetla Tiska, Bombadi, Hetla Tiska, Aju Mawi. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tony. All right, boys, take it away. Peltier song. Oh, who said that? I did. My goodness. Oh, okay, Ann. Go ahead. You got the floor. No, put the cash right there. Yeah, for the drum. Oh, you for the cash. Okay, we'll take care of that. All right, and while they're drumming, you're putting your money on the blanket here. We got to get the chairs stacked up and put in that room over there. And the vendors, we all got to clear out of here by 5:30. All right? Other than that, thank you very much. And the outer world out there tuning in, listening in, stay tuned tomorrow. We got a great program. We'll be on at 12 o'clock, noon, high noon. Oh!
And you've been listening to earthcycles.net, www.earthcycles.net at the 2010 AIM gathering. We're going to fade out of here. Talk to you later, tomorrow, noon. And you've been listening to www.earthcycles.net live in San Francisco at the 2010 American Indian Movement Gathering. We'll be back tomorrow sometime around noon. Thanks for listening. For more information about specific stories and events, go to bsnorel.blogspot.com. bsnorel.blogspot.com. The AIM website, let's say the Leonard Peltier website, is whoisleonardpeltier.info and aimwest.info. Later. Thanks for listening. Bye.